What up? Mr. Manager here with my second team preview for this 2022 World Cup. I've already done the host nation, Qatar. Now let's move on to Qatar's opponents today, Ecuador. So, Ecuador is a country in Southern America, population of around 17, 18 million, speak Spanish. Capital is Quito, and they got this super sick flag above me. Let's take a little bit of a look at their footballing history. So this is their fourth World Cup appearance. The first one was in 2002. So all of their World Cup appearances have come this millennium. In 2006, they actually made it out of the group stage and lost to England in the round of 16, 1-0. And we'll actually talk a little bit more about that game against England later on in the video. They qualified by getting fourth in CONMEBOL, or South American qualifying, below Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay in that order, I believe. And that is a difficult continent to qualify from. So Ecuador should not be overlooked. They're not particularly highly ranked by FIFA. They are ranked 44 overall. But this is a team with a lot of good young talent that qualified out of one of the most competitive regions in world football, South America. So let's take a look at some players to watch here on this Ecuadorian football team. My personal favorite, my favorite player, I think, in this group, maybe outside of Sadio Mane, is Moises Caicedo. Moises Caicedo plays for Brighton in the Premier League. He plays as like a center mid, sometimes a center defensive mid, but really he is a box-to-box type of player. So first of all, he's excellent at winning the ball back. You can watch compilations of him just taking the ball off of people. He gets the ball back so much for Brighton, who are really a very good team in the Premier League. I enjoy watching them play as well, and in particular, I enjoy watching Caicedo play. He's incredibly important for this Ecuador team. He is their engine. He's going to be relied upon to not only disrupt play of the other midfields and get the ball back, but also he is dynamic enough that he can either try and bring the ball up himself, or he is getting better as he gets a little bit older at playing an incisive pass and really starting off like a good counterattack for Ecuador. They're not a high-scoring team, so it might take him winning the ball back and playing a smart pass quickly up the field for them to get those opportunities that maybe they're going to need. They're not going to be playing super consistently in the opponent's half. Anyways, Caicedo is going to run all day. Excellent player. He's valued currently at 38 million euros. I see him as a player that will likely increase their value quite a bit during this World Cup. There's already been discussions of him going to teams like Arsenal, Manchester United, I believe Chelsea as well. Chelsea would make sense because Graham Potter. Anyways, I could see him going for 60 million or more. Probably not January, but maybe in the summer. Anyways, my favorite player on Ecuador. Great midfielder. As I mentioned, they're not a super high-scoring team, but they are a good, solid team defensively, in particular down the middle, both with their midfielders and their central defenders. Their best one is this dude, Piero Hincapié, who is only 20 years old and is the most important defender for this Ecuador team. He's also playing consistently for Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga at the moment. He's a lefty, strong, good with the ball at his feet. As you can tell by that picture above me, looks like a pretty chill dude, Hincapié. So you can see, he plays for a good club. He's valued at 22 million. This is a good defender. This is a good young prospect. The fact that he's a lefty makes me feel like eventually he'll get linked with Arsenal because Mikel Arteta does love his left-footed center backs. But Hincapié is a player that Ecuador should be very happy to have. Ecuador fans should be happy to have a guy like this. because he should be a staple of their defense for quite some time. I believe. Anyways, let's move on to our next player. Another defender, actually. This is Pervis Estupiñán, which is just a sick name. He's a left back. He also plays for Brighton, so he and Caicedo both play for Brighton. He's 24 years old. He's valued at 20 million euros. Was playing in Spain before he came to England to play for Brighton. He's good. He's a solid defender, but in particular, he's going to be looked at to generate offense. He's going to be bombing up and down that left side. If there's one thing you can say about this Ecuador team, perhaps it's training up in Quito, up in that high elevation, which we'll talk about later in the video. But these guys can run. They got legs in them, and Estupiñán will be getting up and down the field on the left side a lot, trying to play crosses in. He likes to take players on sometimes. Yeah, he'll definitely be one to watch. I feel like you'll hear his name a lot during the games that Ecuador are playing. If they are able to be a bit ambitious and get up there, then Estupiñán will be a part of that for sure. Our last one is, so most of the players we've looked at are a bit on the younger side. Ecuador does have a young team, which I'll talk about in a second, but I do want to mention one of the veterans, Ener Valencia, who is just kind of a classic journeyman striker. He's played for West Ham, Everton, and even played here in Mexico for Tigres. Currently, he's out in Turkey, and although he's getting older, he played a lot on the left wing previously in his career. These days, he's really just a out-and-out striker, going to play that number 9 role. He's getting older, but when I was doing research for this video, I found that he's playing in Turkey for Fenerbahce, and he's got 13 goals in 12 games for them this season. So he's producing in Turkey, which is a solid league. I mentioned earlier, Ecuador are not a high-scoring team. They have eked out a lot of, 1-0 results, 0-0 draws. They're going to try and play really, really solid, through the middle and defensively. The big question is, can they score? And so hopefully for Ecuador fans, Ener Valencia's got a little bit left in the tank for them. He's the leading goal scorer of all time for Ecuador, and let's see if he can add a few to that tally for Ecuador. Now, I want to take a look at how Ecuador will qualify, if they do qualify. First of all, the biggest question is, can they win outside of Ecuador? Can they win outside of Quito and the elevation that means? So they have a significantly better record playing, for example, in South American qualifying in Quito versus outside of the country and in other places. They won almost all of their games at home and were a little more middling outside of their country. So, some critics point to that and say, well, they're not a deserving team. They're not actually that good of a team. They just have a really crazy home field advantage. I don't think that's entirely true, but it's not nothing, right? Playing at that elevation, having a significantly better record there is definitely something of note. If they sleep on Qatar in the first game and Qatar comes out with home field advantage, then I would say that that's a good chance of them not advancing, right? But if Qatar just plays as Qatar leveled teams should play, I think Ecuador will win that match. I think Ecuador's a much better team than Qatar. They're ranked sort of close in the FIFA rankings, 44 and 50, but Ecuador is clear of Qatar. Luckily, I have a friend who is currently in Qatar at the World Cup. What's up, Mondo? And he just texted me and told me that there appears to be more Ecuador fans than Qatar fans in Qatar. So I will be honest, I am biased. I am cheering for Ecuador. I like this team a lot. They're a small nation. I'm rooting for them. Perhaps home field advantage won't even be a thing for Qatar if there's so many Ecuador fans there. They'll get through if their spine stays strong. I mentioned they got good center defenders. Torres next to Hincapié is also a very good central defender. Guezo, the partner of Caicedo in the center of the midfield, is a good partner. So that spine is strong. And if they can score. They do have some good wingers on the outside, in particular a guy by the name of Plata, I believe. And he's a fast, highly rated player who's playing in Spain at the moment. if he can create something, if Estupinian can get down the side and create something, or maybe Eder Valencia can get a goal, then they might be able to advance. Right? They need to beat Qatar, perhaps beat or tie Senegal, and give a showing against the Dutch. So I mentioned that I am cheering for Ecuador in this World Cup. What are some reasons why? Why should you cheer for Ecuador? So one of the fun things I found out about this squad while I was doing my research is the Independiente del Valle connection. So Independiente is a club in Ecuador that is not a traditional power in Ecuador, right? They're not a large club. There's not a big fan base, but they recently made a large investment in their youth facilities and their youth development programs, and they have now become, that was maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, they have become a talent factory, essentially. Half of this national team has some sort of connection to Independiente del Valle, including Caicedo and Incapie. So that really good central midfielder they have, and that good center back, both of whom are playing, one in the Bundesliga, one in the Premier League. This small club is producing world-class talents. They also have won the Copa Sudamerica twice. So that is like the Europa League equivalent in South America. So there's the Copa Libertadores and then the Copa Sudamerica, and they've won that twice, and that's a big deal. They're playing against some good teams in that tournament, in that second tier cup. It's a good tournament to win. One thing that I found of note that is just kind of a funny thing for those of you watching with Seattle roots, their stadium has a capacity of 12,000, which is the exact same capacity of Memorial Stadium back home. So anyways, this is a young team. A bunch of the guys are connected to this youth program and this club. That was, again, a small club traditionally in Ecuador that has been producing a crazy amount of talent. So I like that connection. That's one of the reasons I'm cheering for them. The biggest reason I'm cheering for them is because they have a chance at revenge. So I mentioned earlier, in 2006, they made it to the round of 16. They lost to England in the round of 16, and this is a very good England team in 2006, what was at that time referred to as a golden generation. You can debate whether or not this current crop of players is better or not. The results have been better, at least, right? But this England team included, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, and our boy David Beckham. And Ecuador actually ended up only losing to this very good England team by a single goal. And the goal was as you can see pictured above me somewhere, was a David Beckham free kick that is worth looking up. Like, watch that highlight. It's an unbelievable free kick. You got to feel unlucky as a small nation, like Ecuador, to be able to stay with the English, a big footballing nation with a lot of resources, and you stay with them, and then you lose on just one moment of David Beckham magic. So if they finish second, let's say Holland and the Netherlands finish first in Group A, and Ecuador finishes second, then they will play the winner of Group B. Group B is the group that England is in, and England is picked by most to win that group. So, hypothetically, Ecuador could advance second from this group, play England, who advances first from their group, and have a chance in the round of 16 to get revenge for that 2006 team. So there is my Ecuador team profile. I'm picking them to get, I think, third. I was going to say second. I want to say second, but I think Senegal is clear of them. So I have the Netherlands first, Senegal second, Ecuador third, and Qatar fourth. Actually, no. You know what? Switch that. Ecuador's advancing. Ecuador second. I'm going with them. They're going to play England. They're going to win. Not against England, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see you guys next video. Peace. Thanks for watching.